Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to run you through how to DJ on your phone, and more specifically I'm going to teach you how to do your very first beat match. But just so you know, this video is going to go right from the basics, because I'm going to assume that anybody who's watching this video probably don't have DJ decks and they probably have never DJed before. So I'm going to make this as beginner friendly as possible. Now, just in case you are interested in getting good at DJing, make sure you go and check out beginnerdjlessons.com, where I've got some additional free training for you. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into this. So, first things first, I want to say that the app that I'm teaching on is DJAY by Algorithm. But what I'm going to teach you is just fundamentals that will apply to any DJ app out there, okay? So don't stress if you've got one of the different ones. The stuff I'm going to be teaching in this video will apply across the board, okay? So, first things first, the art of DJing is having one song playing on the left and then having another song playing on the right and blending one track nicely into the next, so it seems like it's flawlessly playing constantly. The music just isn't stopping and it just flows from one into the next. So what you've essentially got is deck A and deck B here. Everything on the right and the left side are identical, they're just kind of swapped around, so any settings will apply to both. Now, let's check this out. So I'm just going to run you through the settings here first so you can see. These are two DJ decks. Obviously this is a phone, so it's just going to load music in here off a streaming service. Now, Algorithm, when I used this last, was using Spotify, but it now uses all these other ones like Tidal or SoundCloud. I just so happen to have a SoundCloud account, so I've connected that. So, just so you know, if you get DJAY by Algorithm, the app costs something like £6 a month, and then when you've got to go and stream the music, it'll be like another £6 a month. It's something like that. But if you were interested in getting into DJing, entry-level beginner DJ controllers cost about $250 anyway, so this is probably quite a good, cheap way to start, and you can, of course, cancel at any time. So what happens is when you hit this button up here, you get through to Spotify and you can add whatever music you like. But I'm going to come back to that in a second. What we've got here are called tempo sliders. Something you need to make sure of when you're blending one song into the next is that the two songs are the same speed. You can't have one song that's going at this speed and another song going at this speed. It won't work. They've both got to be going at exactly the same speed. So you've got to get the tempo slider by either bumping it up or down over here. Now, if you move something, this is obviously fiddly, and this will apply to every setting on this app. If you just double click it, it'll snap back to the central position here. You'll see at the top the BPM, which as soon as we've got a song loaded in, it'll tell you the BPM or beats per minute. That's how quick or slow a song is. And you've got to make sure that the two BPM are identical. Now, a really easy way to do this as a beginner, or if your fingers just aren't big enough to do it on the scroller here, you can just hit the sync button. And you'll know which sync button to press, because if you've got a song playing here and you load a song into this deck here and then you click sync, it will sync this deck to this deck and vice versa. The other thing which I wanted to show you here as well is this little note here. Now, interestingly, with DJing, when you slow a song down or speed it up, it will typically slow down and go down in pitch. Or if you speed it up, it'll go really quick like a chipmunk, right? Essentially, it'll go down in pitch or higher in pitch. But because this is all digital, one of the best things about it is you can just hit this little blue thing here, and it means as you slow it down or speed it up, it will stay in the same key. The pitch will not change. This is really relevant because if you want two songs to go perfectly, you need to make sure they're in a similar key, or best case scenario, in the same key, because that'll make them sound perfect as you're blending them together. So you've got to make sure that's on at all points. Then down here, you've got some additional stuff. The play button, obvious. It also plays and pauses the track. This is called a crossfader. You can use it to just take the sound from one side over to the other. So this will put the volume up on this side and down on this side. And as you move it across, it turns the volume down on this side and up on this side. So it's a great way to blend between one track to another. Down here, you've got something called a cue point, okay? Now, you're not always in DJing going to want to start a song right from the beginning. Sometimes you may want to go in a bit. Maybe you want to go to the first beat of the song. So you can just scroll to the first beat of the song and set a cue point. Now, when you hit this button with the little arrow, it will always start from that point. In fact, I think now would be a good time to actually load in some music and show you this in action. So I'm just going to click up here. and I'm going to just go to search up here, and I'm just going to go and get a Fisher song, because this would be a good way to explain it, and I'm going to get You're Kidding. Notice how it started playing straight away. So now what we've got, as you can see, album art up here, there's the BPM. We can see the song in a wave form along here, which is quite interesting because you can see when the quieter and louder bits of the song are. Typically the louder bits of the song are going to be like the drop and stuff like that. You can see the key up there. Oh crikey, let me turn off that. You can see the key up here. You can see the speed, the length of the song, obviously the name, artist, album art over there. Now, at this point, this isn't the most helpful screen. You might think, oh, this is cool, I can do some scratching. And you kind of can, but not really. Okay, right, now, if you come and click this button here, it will take you to the waveform. This is far more useful. So let's say you wanted to go and set a cue point. You can get to the point you want by either clicking this button here and going to the beginning of the song. And I might want to set a cue point right at the beginning here. So I hit set. And then I hit this button, and this is the best bit about a cue point. You can tap along, because as soon as you take your finger off the cue point, it will snap back to that point, which makes it really useful. You'll always see DJs using the cue point because you can literally tap along. If I try to tap with the play button, it just starts and stops it. Doesn't work. So back to the cue point. Really awesome thing. Okay, sweet. So now there's something else which is really advanced about this app, which is really, really awesome. You can click this button here and it gives you additional things you can do. So this, we'll start with this over here. So as you can see, there's 5. Yeah, that's 5, isn't it? Yeah. Oh wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, sorry, I just had a thick moment there. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start with this. This is the EQ. Now, typically on DJ decks, you'd see these as knobs in the middle. You've got a, let's start with the filter. Actually, let's start with low. Low, essentially what you're doing is you're turning down all the low frequencies, which are the bass frequencies, okay? Let's go back. Now, the mids, obviously the mid-range, which would typically be like the singing and the pianos and stuff like that. And then the highs would be things like the hi-hats and stuff like that. Now, I'm going to show you this towards the end of the video, and I'm going to show you how you would use these different frequency ranges to blend from one song into the next. But just know that for now. Now, filter over here, if you turn it down, it filters all the high frequencies out. So it's essentially turning down the highs, then the mids, then the lows. Double click to get those back, and let me show you what this sounds like. And doing the opposite and putting the filter up does the opposite. It's essentially turning the lows, the mids, and the highs down like this. And it's a very typical DJ kind of sound, that filter. Next, we can go to hot cues. Remember I told you about this cue point here? You can set multiple ones if you wanted to. So you could go and set one maybe just before the drop here. So go back, cancel. So what you can do is come to this waveform here. Here, you can come back and set a cue point here, okay? However, I'm not going to worry about hot cues too much in this because I feel like they're all a bit fiddly and this is your first lesson. But just know you can set multiple hot cues. If you really wanted to just build to the last drop, you could potentially set a hot cue there. And then the other thing which would be good for is you can click it, go back to here and set your hot cue as this point here. So you've set a secondary hot cue which would be easier for you to use if you're actually doing a mix. Anyway. Next thing we've got is looping. Looping is really important in DJing because music, all it is essentially is a series of loops. It's very repetitive, especially like dance music. And DJs can kind of use this to their advantage. If they can see the songs coming to an end and they haven't got much time to blend to the next track, they can quickly throw a loop on their track here. So you can either do this by hitting an in and an out point like this. You can now see there's a blue section which is looping. If I want to get rid of this, I just hit that middle button there and it gets rid of it. However, what's more typical in DJing is preset loops. So what you can do is click here to just go 4 beats like this. Let's have a listen. Or you could extend that to 8, 16, 32, and you've got as many loops, as many as you want at that point. And the only other thing I'd say is it can sometimes be used in a creative way if you bring it really quick in a build like this. Like that. But again, because you don't really have access to the filters, because what you'd like to do ideally there is build that up and then filter it up at the same time, which would add a lot of tension, but you don't really have access to both, so I probably wouldn't bother with stuff like that on an app like this. But it's good. What I'd use the loops for is to give myself more time in a song if I was blending, for example. Then we've got different effects over here, and you know, the thing with effects, just play around with them. You hit effects here and you can go and get ones like reverb, phaser, flanger. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but what's really cool is this is like an XY thing. So it's got a high pass and a low pass, just like I showed you with the filters, but you can also sweep this pad, creating more or less of a gate effect. Really cool stuff. Reverb does exactly the same thing. Let's go get a reverb, put it on. One of the really fun things about this app using these, there's also instant effects here, so you just press a button and it creates an effect instantly. So this is where it begins to get really fun, and I'm going to leave you guys to just play around with that in your own time. And again, you know, here's another setting manual where you just choose how much you want to add in of the effect individually. Finally, we get to actually a unbelievably clever part of this app. And for this, I'm actually going to load in a different song that has some vocals. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go and find a song that I really like at the moment, John Summit. Like this, I can't spell, there it is, Summit, Deep End. I've been trying now this is bloody fantastic. Essentially what you can do here in this part here, and I probably should have started the video talking about this, is you can separate the vocals from the drums, from the harmonics, which is essentially like music that's playing, right? This is so clever. So watch this, I'm going to take away these two and it's going to leave us just with vocals. So clever. And then drums, you can just have the drums if you want. You can just have the music. See, that didn't work so well, but I think it's because the only thing in the background is like a bass line. But it does work unbelievably well. And this opens up a whole new world of stuff you can do with this app. Which brings me on to my next point. And I don't want to overwhelm you, but I also want to run you through everything in this app because it's cool and it's fun to play around with. If you hit this button here, it gives you different pads, right? Now, let me just explain what these pads do. If you hit this button here, you can get a selection of different pads, but we've currently got Deep House selected. And what I can do is trigger these different pads and they start doing different things, like a bass line. Kick, clap, hi-hats. Now if we go back to what I was saying a second ago, which is coming and separating out different parts of this track, you can really begin to have some awesome fun with this if my fingers would actually select it. You can separate out the vocals of a track and create your own remix on the fly. Now remember what I said about songs being in certain keys? Something else that's really clever about this app, I just spat on my phone. Something else that's really clever about this app is it will play the bass line in the same key as the track that's currently playing, so it will always sound good at all points. This is so freaking genius. Watch. I've been trying not to go deep. I don't think I want to give I've been trying not to go deep. You can instantly see how unbelievably powerful this app is. And we haven't even begun to DJ yet. Something cool about this app is it almost blurs the lines between DJing and music production, which I find awesome. Now, just so you know, if you click this button down here, it gives you quick access to these different settings here, which we found, which is drums, vocals. You can just come and select one of these things. So you can go to instruments and acapella, click that button, it will instantly give you the vocals, that will instantly give you the piano, hit the drums, that'll instantly give you the drums, and that'll instantly give you like mid-range instruments like guitars and stuff, okay? Mid-range is in, actually don't worry about that. Okay, cool. So there we are. That is basically everything you need to know about this app. It's freaking cool. And well worth £6 a month as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, they're not paying me to say this. I just think it's really fun. Okay, so at this point, I'm actually just going to give you a quick lesson in something called beat matching. Whereas when you match the beat from one track to another, so they're going at the same time, and then you blend from one track to the next. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to give you a quick lesson so you learn how to match the beats together. So here's what you do. I've got 2 tracks loaded in, You're Kidding by Fisher and an Eli Brown You're Kidding remix. Okay, so I know those 2 songs are going to go together because this is a remix of this song here. They're both the same speed, which makes this easy, and they're similar keys. Oh, I know they're going to go because, like I said, this is a remix of this song here. So what we're going to do is as this song comes to an end, we're going to bring this track in. So first thing we need to do is go to the first beat of this track like that, click set, and so we've got a cue point. Okay, now what's going to be happening is this song is going to be right at the end. Let's just bring that along. Come on. There we go, like this, and we'll get it right to the end there. And what you're going to start by doing is just tapping along that cue button there to this beat. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is you want to make sure that you're pressing play on a bar, okay? So in a song, there's usually bars of 4 beats. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And luckily for us, this app. So as you see, if I scroll back, you'll see there's this yellow line every 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you always want to match it on the 1. So the one thing you really have to look at here when you're matching one to the next is make sure you press play on that line passing here. And you do it just by holding it down. Once you've done it, you've got to kind of swivel your hand around and press play so you can take your hand off and it will continue to play. Okay, so let's just give that a quick go now. Let's come back a little bit here. Let's bring this to the center so you can hear both tracks at full volume, just so you can see this example. Moving on the dance floor. Now what you will notice is these 2 little white yellow lines here are not perfectly synced up. So you want to make sure that they are perfectly aligned. So what you'll do is you'll hit this plus or minus button here to make sure they're synced. You have to be fiddly, you have to be careful about this because if you touch the waveform accidentally, it will just stop that song. So you've got to be fiddly when you're doing it. But you'll see they're now perfectly lined up. Now essentially at that point you have done your first beat match, and I think for this video I'm going to leave it at that because I think you guys should go away and have a lot of fun taking into account everything I've taught you. You know, once you've got the 2 songs beat match, you can go back to these settings here. I would recommend actually just playing around with effects to start, but then obviously you could do other things like bringing in vocals, taking away vocals. Perhaps I can do a more advanced tutorial on this if you guys really want me to. If you do, leave a comment below and I may do that in the future. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a regular beat match. Start with the volume all the way over here like this. And once I've got the 2 tracks beat matched visually, doing what I just explained a second ago, I'll bring this across and we've essentially done our very first blend on this app. So let's give that a go now. Moving on the dance floor. Dancing. So there you go, guys. Now you have a good understanding of everything this app is capable of. And I've given you an introduction of blending one song into the next, so you can now go away and have a bit of a play around with this. If you would like me to do a slightly more advanced tutorial on this app, all you got to do is let me know in the comment section below and I could go ahead and do that. I'm going to wrap up this video by saying make sure you go and check out beginnerdjlessons.com, and why not go and watch this awesome video right here of me teaching my wife how to DJ. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Ciao!